is a great pleasure, even at the long distance separating the national capital from the nation's metropolis, to take part in the opening ceremony of the electrical exposition, whose managers have paid me the high compliment of requesting me to say a few words of welcome. To say that I am delighted to see you tonight is just as expressive as the greeting of my old-time friend, the blind preacher, who never in his life met me, but to express his delight at seeing me, when in fact he had never seen a living face in 20 years. Like him, I seem to see you, and to feel the influence of your presence, although you are so far distant, for I know you are in the sound of my voice, or at least I am so assured. Your managers have asked me to speak to you over a distance of 250 miles and across 5 states, but what I shall say is insignificant compared with the impressive fact that the electrical genius of our age has made possible this marvelous system of communication which annihilates time, space, and distance.
Whatever it is desirable for a people to have, here it may be secured. Opportunity is open. The rewards of effort are sure and large. They are growing better. All of this leads to but one conclusion: preserve American institutions, perfect the relationships of daily life, persevere and go forward.
My official duty at the present time to keep in touch with the most active Prime Minister has not only given me an undeserved reputation for activity, but the invaluable opportunity to see this great country of Scotland as it is, a country whose history is familiar to every American schoolboy, and whose traditions are a heritage to the world.
This day set aside to commemorate the signing of the Declaration of Independence is by far the most sacred of all national holidays, and the thought comes to me that this year we might well prolong that memorable day into a full week of patriotic thanksgiving. I'm going
to make the same speech to you tonight that I make to the Senate of the United States, which always is pleasing. And when I know it will please the President of the United States and all the balance of it. And that is to say that we dismiss you tonight until 1939 at the same hour. I bid you good night.
Or an informal way, represent most of the free peoples of the world, are met here tonight in the interest of the millions in all the nations who have freedom in their souls, to let those millions in the other countries know that here in the United States are 130 million men, women, and children who are in this war to the finish. Our American people are utterly resolved to go on until they can strike the relentless blows that will assure a complete victory, and with it win a new day for the lovers of freedom everywhere on this earth.
Stalemate.
Now, with regard to the truce, when I was in Korea and in Japan, I felt very optimistic that notwithstanding the haggling and the wrangling largely attributed to our opponents, that there would be a truce signed. I still feel optimistic about it, although there is still haggling and still wrangling. But I still feel that our negotiators have exhibited patience and tolerance and forbearance with the dilatory tactics of those with whom they are compelled to negotiate, and that notwithstanding all this, there will be a truce signed.
The people of the Soviet Union, and even more the people of Poland, who lost 1 out of 4 citizens in World War II, have suffered a great deal in wartime. and they desperately want peace.
All over the world. But assuming he didn't, we demonstrated that Americans believe what they say in their Constitution and their Declaration of Independence, and that no single American is black-marked and handcuffed and put over in a corner because of his religion. And we demonstrated something else that I think is equally important, maybe more so, that you could elect a vice president from the South, regardless of his region.
I often talk to unemployed men and women, and they tell me it's pretty hard to find work without a good education. That's why we're doing everything possible today to train the unemployed for today's jobs. Now, there used to be a lot of jobs for unskilled people, but that isn't true anymore. Machines now do most of the unskilled work that the uneducated used to do. If you want to amount to something, if you want a good job, I urge you to finish your education. If you don't have that diploma yet, stay in school until you get it. You'll always be glad you did.
By government, the views of a majority of this fraternity do not, and I repeat, not represent the views of America. That is why such a great gulf existed between how the nation received the president's address and how the networks reviewed it.
Well, I think you have to take the context of all of the tapes. Yes, you can extract a word or a sentence or maybe a paragraph in a whole mass of conversation, but I don't think that word or that sentence is adequate to justify an impeachment. You have to take the total of the evidence if you're going to impeach a president. And when you take the total evidence from the transcripts, the tapes, and the other evidence, in my judgment, there isn't sufficient evidence to justify an impeachment. I believe that the preponderance of the evidence will exonerate the president.
I personally think that it's a very fair document, and that there are things that have been done which are in contradiction to the statutes, but in comparison to the total effort, they're not major.
And in comparison?
I don't know how the public reacts to what they read in the press, so that you can't tell. We've done a good job, I think. There have been no stones left unturned. There's no punches pulled, and I think that it's a very fair job, and I think that it proves that a citizens committee can be useful and helpful.
I've just completed a day of intensive talks in Brussels with the leaders of the Belgian government, with the NATO Council, with the European Community, and with the Foreign Minister of the Netherlands. And throughout this week, we will be meeting with leaders of Western European governments. I will be visiting Berlin the day after tomorrow, being accompanied by your Minister of Foreign Affairs, to demonstrate our commitment to the security and the independence of West Berlin. And we are delighted to be here. A few years ago, it was my privilege to spend a substantial amount of time with your Chancellor, Mr. Schmidt, discussing common problems at that time, and I gained an enormous amount of respect for his gifted leadership, and I look forward very much to meeting with him again tomorrow and with the other leaders of the German government to discuss how we can best work together to work toward a successful and a bright future.
I don't mind. You got to be what you are. Generationally, kids, you have to be what you are in life. You don't have to style it so you're into the latest fad or the latest thing. And I'm not going to change. Just that he'll never play linebacker for the Chicago Bears. Have you ever seen him? I'll put my record out there with anybody. You know that I was shot down 2 months after my 20th birthday fighting for my country? I didn't detect any wimp factor there. Do you know that we had to sit, my wife and I, and watch a child wrenched from our hearts in 6 months of cancer, knowing she was going to die? Little strength comes from that. Do you know that I've run agencies like the CIA and restored the morale out there by making tough decisions, moving people around, not jumping out trying to get credit? But if his complaint is that I'm loyal to this president, guilty as charged.
I received a call asking to help honor the Indiana University coach who has earned the admiration and respect of the many fans of his sport. I didn't hesitate. I said I'd be happy to say a few words about Bill Mallory. But Bob, I sympathize with you tonight. I can't imagine what it must be like to have people telling all kinds of jokes about you. Coach, it is truly a pleasure to be able to wish you a happy birthday. I'm only sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight, but the Secret Service wouldn't allow it. I argued that I've met with the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, why not night?
Last month, right here in this place, I announced that the first 6 months of the year, January through June, each set new records for high global temperatures. That means in the 118 years since we began keeping modern, reliable records, last January was the warmest January. Last February was the warmest February. Last March was the warmest March in history. Last April was the hottest April. Last May was the hottest May. And last June was the hottest June. That came right on the heels of 1997, which was the warmest year on record.
We're fighting a war on terror because the enemy attacked us first and hit us hard. Scarcely 50 miles from this place, we saw thousands of our fellow citizens murdered and 16 acres of a great city turned to ashes. Others were killed within view of the White House, at the headquarters of our military at the Pentagon. Many heroes emerged that day, both on board an aircraft over Pennsylvania and among the rescue teams, and they too died in the hundreds. These are events we can never forget, and they are scenes the enemy would like to see played out in this country over and over again on a larger and larger scale. And now they have chosen to make Iraq the central front in their war against civilization. In Iraq today, the al-Qaeda network that struck America is one of the elements trying to destroy a democratic government. They are surging their capabilities, attacking Iraqi and American forces and killing innocent civilians. America is fighting this enemy in Iraq because that is where they have gathered. We are there because after 9/11, we decided to deny terrorists any safe haven. We are there because having removed Saddam Hussein, we promised not to allow another dictator to rise in his place.
Hi, this is Joe Biden. I'm filling in for President Obama this weekend because he's on his way back from Afghanistan, where he was spending some time with the brave men and women of our armed forces. You all know it's tough. It's tough to be far away from home during the holidays, especially in a war zone. So he wanted to be there in person to thank all of those troops on behalf of the American people for the service and sacrifice each one of them are making. And here at home, the First Lady and my wife Jill have made supporting military families a priority. You know, these families are also making difficult sacrifices for our country, and they deserve our admiration and our gratitude as well. Our service members and their families are always on our minds, even as the President and I are working on other issues that are critically important to the American people, issues that the American people are deeply concerned about: accelerating the recovery, growing our economy, strengthening our middle class, and getting our friends and neighbors back to work.
So how many times the Nazarene actually pointed to the farmer who not just tilled the soil, but had the virtues of faith and character and generosity and neighborliness. And I just want you to know that as you contribute to our economy, your character and your faith contributes to this nation. So thank you for being here. And in these challenging times in the life of our nation, where it seems like there's more focus on what divides us anymore than what unites us, I'll always believe that there's more that unites the American people than could ever divide us. And chief among that is faith. So I encourage you to have faith.
This was an important trip to be here at the Munich Security Conference, in particular this year, as I said yesterday. We are looking at a moment that is a very decisive moment on one of the bases for the Munich Security Conference, and certainly one of the founding reasons for NATO, which is European security and the connection and alliance between Europe and the United States. This was a productive trip in terms of the extensive bilateral meetings that we had that were in furtherance of the ongoing collaboration and partnership with our allies. It was important in that, as you all know, this is a moment that is very dynamic, if not every hour, certainly every day. There seem to be new moments of interest and also of intelligence.
Everything that you do for our nation's war fighters and for those who have given their lives to this country, we remember you today. And certainly to our Gold Star families, we're so thrilled and so grateful to have you with us in attendance. This is a sacred place, an eternal resting spot for our nation's sons and daughters. We gather in solemn commemoration of their sacrifice and the sacrifice made by all those who gave up their lives in service to our beloved country. In 1915,